General Protocol Spaces. Banking on Freedom.
Okay, here we go. Welcome to General Bull 11 of N. Going to focus today on building an app, what it takes to build an app today on Bitcoin Cash, permissionless money, programmable money network. And we might have a few various people joining us, but we'll just get started and see how things go. Can I get a mic check from everybody?
Yes.
Hello.
I'm here.
Hey.
Check. Hello.
Oh, Jim's here too. Hey, Jim. Nice to have you. All right. Yeah. So what I was thinking is, as people come in, we'll just ask them to share, right? What lessons they have, what lessons they've learned, what experience they've had, the troubles, the good points, the best practices, rules of thumb, etc. Anything like that we can share, because in a decentralized ecosystem like we have, there's no really a top, right? There's everybody has different experiences and has learned different things. So yeah, I'd like to get as many angles as we can from development and marketing, business, entrepreneur, all those different angles of what it takes to build an app today. So let's see. General protocols. Obviously, we've built BCH Bull. The team of us have independently also worked on Flipstarter and other things in Bitcoin Cash ecosystem. Basically, apps, things that people can use that are useful, not just a pure token speculation. It's something that provides utility to people, and we've learned quite a bit from that. Maybe later we'll ask Jonathan to cover some of that. And Uname, I'd like to hear from you too, because we don't often get to hear from you on here, while I think you have some of the deepest insights in the whole ecosystem. So I'd love to hear more. Jim, could you tell us your most recent pain or learnings or findings? Because you've been extremely busy building apps these days. What have you been learning? What's on your mind with what you think other people should know, or would be what you would like to have known? If you could go back a year or two, what would you like to have known?
It's hard to say. Recently I've been working on the Wallet Connect Cash RPC stuff, and to be honest with you, that's just been brick wall after brick wall. I'm making good progress, but that's just been incredibly difficult generally.
I'd say that's one of the things, not a nice lesson to learn, but one that I've learned also, which is the things that seem so simple and people talk about them like they're going to be really straightforward. When nobody has done it before, they usually turn out to be real pains in the ass. Even if there's eventually a good way to do things and you sort things out, it's a lot of hard work to do things the first time.
Yeah, I agree. So I probably can't really name anything specifically, to be honest with you. There's just been an endless number of things I bumped into. I lost 4 hours yesterday. Where I was meant to be doing a SHA-256, and I was accidentally doing a hash-256, and I just didn't.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So literally 4 hours down the drain building debugging tools and all that kind of thing, and then eventually my eyes glanced upon it, and I'm like, fuck me, that's so much
for the audience. Hash-256 is just doing SHA-256 hash twice.
Yeah, so stuff like that. I think probably burns a lot of time just doing stuff at a very low level. So I'm a big fan of abstractions. I think in general, having good abstractions, good libraries on top of the low level probably would have saved me a lot of time. But it's hard for me to kind of pinpoint specific things, to be honest with you. It's just been so many.
Right. Yeah. What about somebody who's coming in today to... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I can absolutely relate to that. some time ago, I tried to implement SPV verification, and later on, when I asked for help on an unrelated subject to Kalen, who works for Electron Cash, his response when he saw that I had actually gone over the hurdle and managed to validate one SPV proof, I was like, he had said, like, that was the hardest part. Whatever you're doing afterwards is not going to be as hard. And yeah, I can see how and why. And it took me quite a long time to figure all these things out. And when you're working with like hashes and cryptographic primitives, everything just looks like random numbers, and nothing makes any sense until it starts making sense. So yeah, documentation in that space and area would have been much welcome.
Documentation and debug tools, right? Two huge, absolutely. That's why I'm really excited about the thing that Pat is working on with CashScript, and the stuff that you're doing, Jim, too. Also, to like tie together everything from the higher level down to the lower level without having to be an expert on every single level down to the bare metal. I saw Jomar has joined us. I asked him to join us on the stage, maybe talk a little bit on another angle. We talk a lot on here about the technical angle, which is great. I love it. We'll see. Jomar has both, right? He has the technical angle as well as the entrepreneur and business building angle. I'd love to hear more about that. Uname, what have you seen, right? So Uname is in a kind of a unique position where he understands I don't even know how to say it. How would you describe your knowledge, Uname? Like it's like you're not a developer, but Bitcoin better than probably anybody else.
No, that's not the case. I'm just pretty okay at making lists, and yeah. Anyway, so to jump to the point, I think we are at an interesting juncture right now. Because after cash tokens and introspection, I think we are suddenly we were suddenly open to a very large field of possibilities that weren't open to us before.
Yeah.
And a lot of the old tooling that we inherited from BTC, some of them would still work, and some other things I wouldn't say obsolete. They would still work, but the field is expanding, and they are just left without all the new cool things. So that's why that's why we're having all this discussions and debates about native wallets that can understand script, and then um, and there's a I would say there's quite a severe lack of tooling that's unique to BCH, that a lot of times people, because I've seen what people do in smart BCH, and the good thing about having unique things is that you have unique things. Then it's a much better base to build on than come in, copy all the things, don't have any unique things, and then it burns out. But the downside is that you don't have anything; you have to build from scratch. So a lot of the unique things, like double spend proof, it's been there for a while. Like it's possible, and it's even built on the node level for a while. But we had the only product that made use of it. People people say they wanted better security, but it turns out nobody wants it badly enough to actually
Right.
develop for it. And I see a lot of the same symptoms elsewhere. So I think this is something that we need to continue to work on, which is when we are developing out the tooling. One obvious angle is to copy what's available on the other chains and emulate them. but we also need to keep in mind what are our unique strengths and stuff. And if you don't provide the tooling, people are not going to make use of it, and it's kind of a circular logic thing.
Yeah. Can I jump in? Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I've actually been thinking in the same lines, and it wasn't until cash tokens came along that I saw people actually making a breaking change. So I've seen, we've talked about like things that make BCH good, and for example, in the Electrum Cash protocol, they have the servers and some of the clients, they are functioning on both BTC and BCH. And so any change to that protocol that is BCH specific is going to be met with some kind of resistance, because it removes that we work on both scenario and makes it more bothersome to maintain the code and whatnot. But actually,
Yes.
with the cash tokens upgrade, I'm seeing signs that people are actively willing to make that distinction now, and kind of like finally let go of the idea that we need to like be really compatible in both ways, and say like, okay, it's fine to actually move forward in this one way. So that's nice.
Yeah, it's really nice, and I guess people it teaches us what we should probably have understood a long time ago, which is that people really need that profit motivation, right? So
Yeah, there's always an uncomfortable moment if you ever say, "Oh, but people should do something." It's like, I don't know. For me, whenever I say "should," it's like a yellow or sometimes red flag that wait a minute, maybe I need to think about this more. If I have to say people should do something. The thing you mentioned, Uname, about how things opened up with the recent upgrades to Bitcoin Cash in the last 2-3 years. I don't know if it's the case, but there's a such thing where when you're doing some creative task, I don't remember the name of it, but there's an effect that when you have so many things to do and so many possibilities, sometimes that creates a kind of freeze, right? Where you don't know what to do. You're paralyzed by all the options available to you. And I have a feeling that's also happening right now. You can literally do whatever you want now with the VM. I mean, there's probably some particular things that don't fit well, but I mean, to a very large degree, you could build whatever app you want that involves money, payments, identity, communication, all kinds of things. And it's just such a wide open field that you have to just kind of draw a box around something and start working on it.
Yes,
and see where it goes.
Yes, and I think I mean, of course, we have a shortage of manpower here, but it's something that people can that everybody can participate in, and chuck in their 2 cents, even if it doesn't work out, even if it's stupid, then well, people will just ignore it. It's no big deal, right? But I think there's aside from people building right now, obviously we need more people building, but people should also feel free to talk more meta, like explore the meta of this new landscape. Like think about what's possible, and what are the actual like down to earth advantages and disadvantages. What kind of app would this what kind of app and applications would we be good at or bad at? Things like that. I feel like people don't explore them enough. Like some people are probably exploring it as they build things, like Jason, or the Cauldron team, or Matthew, or Pat. But I don't think people talk about it or write about it enough to have an active conversation going on. And if people would do that, that would be nice. I know I'm working on that too, and it's much delayed. But I just want to get it out there that more people should talk about that. Yeah,
I see. Yeah, and I think one of the things that you were saying is that it's not just programmers, right? There's many aspects to this. to where we're going. And there's absolutely, you could never convince me that somebody has in their mind an accurate picture of what money and economy looks like in say 50 years, right? Like you would never convince me of that. I think it's going to undergo incredible changes due to, interaction of all kinds of things, not just cryptocurrency, but AI and everything, right? So there's everything needs to happen between here and there. There's all kinds of things that are going to change. So whatever skills you have, they're relevant. Whatever thoughts you have, they're relevant, right?
Yes, and it's not just like really big things. It's not just really big things like, where should the ecosystem go, or what should BCH, what should money look like in 10 years? It's not just those really big things. There are some really small things, like the smallest things. Like you look at the cash token specs, right? There's our NFTs are unfortunate. I mean, I don't like it, but I understand that it's the most understandable for the most people. So it's called NFTs. We have NFTs on the chain. They are non-fungible, and they have commitments, and they don't just have commitments that can carry a string. That commitment can also be mutable. So in the spec, Jason listed some possible ways that those mutable tokens could be used. I think it's pretty powerful, but I don't think he by any means explored the whole thing. And it's the smallest thing. Like you look at NFTs carry commitments that can be mutated once or many times. This is kind of unique here. How can I make use of this? Things like this,
Yeah, the raw building blocks, we're still at a very low level. And I think that goes back to what Jim was saying, that there's a long list of details that you have to know at this point still to build. And that's still, I think, the case, right? You're going to have some level of expertise either with yourself or with your team to be able to build something today, because those who are building apps, it's just the nature of the beast. The first one to the room is the one that builds the tooling, because you need it yourself. And like you said, we haven't even explored all the things that are possible. I don't know. It's kind of like an early transistors or vacuum tubes, right? It's like, well, we have this thing and we can do this binary thing, zeros and ones. But what can we do with this? Maybe it's not the best analogy, but we're still at that stage. I do think so. Yeah. Like send and receive is not the only thing that's possible. I got a note from Jim. He said some specific things for builders. In your browser, if you're switching tabs or like tabbing away to other windows and so forth, most browsers will kill WebSocket connections when the tab is not visible. This is such a huge pain in the ass if you haven't experienced it trying to make an app. So just be aware of that, and you'll probably forget this, and then you'll run into it yourself, and then you'll remember this after you figure it out. But if anybody's building out there, take note of that. Web browsers probably kill. Most browsers kill WebSocket connections when the tab is not visible. He also mentioned Electrum, SSE, Wallet Connect stuff. Yeah, we still have a long way to go on Wallet Connect and those kind of communication ideas. Yeah, there's a lot of things that you have to be aware of today. So ask around. If you're going to build something, ask around and see if you can find some expertise.
If we're talking browsers, I want to add one more point, because this one I've seen people miss multiple times, and even I missed it early on. And it's that local storage is not safe, has never been safe, and will never be safe. Local storage gets pruned whenever people reset their browsers. Local storage gets pruned whenever the system does not have enough storage space. The browser just clears out your data for you. So if you're going to store a key or any entropy or secrets or any important data, use IndexedDB. That one you can ask for persistent storage as a flag to it, and it will actually not be removed automatically in uncomfortable situations.
Yep. And listen to that again, because you'll run into it, and then you'll remember it after you run into it when you've already lost some data. Yes. So use indexed DB. Nothing perfect, but use the best choices available. Jomar, are you there? Can I get a mic check?
Hello, I'm here.
Hey, Jomar. I would really love to hear what experience you would like to share, or what lessons you've learned that you would like other builders and entrepreneurs to know, because you're one of the rare beasts in cryptocurrency, right? Actually building useful products, making utility for people. What have you learned?
Okay, just one of the big lessons we've learned when we were developing the wallet is that in the beginning we were thinking that volatility is going to be a big issue for merchants. So we were
Could
thinking
you say that
hard.
again? What was going to be a big deal for merchants? Sorry.
Volatility of the
Volatility.
BCH,
Right.
of
Okay.
BCH price.
Right.
And so we were spending a lot of thought on how to address that. That's why early on we were like working hard to integrate AnyHedge, and we're not regretting that, by the way. It's a good piece of technology to be in there. But it turns out the moment we started onboarding merchants, that most of them were just happy to take Bitcoin Cash and
Oh.
hold it. I don't know if it's unique in this part of the world, but um, it turns out if you talk early to your target customers, you might find out that the problems that you think you might encounter are not real. So it will help you save resources, prioritizing features that you will implement in your app that actually have that are actually real concerns of your target users. Yeah, that's one.
That's a huge one. Yeah, make sure you actually know what your customers need and what they want. On the
Yeah.
BCH aspect, I heard the same thing from Bitcoin Cash City, where, and I'd like to ask. So what they found, I hope I'm correct, but I've heard this several times, so I think this is correct. As the merchants hear and they understand, okay, so I'm not happy about CBDCs, the central bank digital currencies. I'm not happy about that. I'm not happy about governments trying to remove cash or surveillance. I'm not happy about various things that are going on, and I'm looking for an option. And when there's people who have any kind of knowledge of those things, that they have their own motivation. They don't need to worry about stability and so much of these other things. They just want to get it and use it. Is that what
True.
you found, or is it something else? What is the motivation for the merchants who receive it to then just say, I just want to use it, I just want to keep it?
I think part of it is what can partly explain it is that it's the fact that BCH price has done well in the last how many 6 months.
Fair.
So that's one. But we had merchants who were there even earlier than that and are happily holding Bitcoin Cash. And the reason being that there is a certain segment of the younger population here who are into cryptocurrencies like tokens and all these sorts of things from the EVM world that they can convert to Bitcoin Cash. Um, by accepting Bitcoin Cash, they're able to cater to this market, and in fact, it has dictated the way we prioritize which merchants to onboard first because these are young people. Most likely, they're going to spend their time in cafes and the likes. So, one motivation I see for the merchants is that they just want to capture this market that are crypto
Right.
savvy. Yeah, I think that's one.
Can I jump in because I have wisdom I'm able to share here. So what you're seeing right now and what you will see in the middle of a bull market or at the late part of the bull market is going to look very different. And so if you want to stay ahead of what's about to happen, you need to also look into luxury services, right? Things that sell at very high prices with very high margins. Those kind of services often can easily absorb the costs of adopting something new for a single purchase. So they can often be talked with and made accept cryptocurrency of payment. Like if someone wants to buy, say, an RV or a very expensive watch or whatever, then if they know that there are a lot of people out there who have recently made significant speculative gains who might want to purchase something from them, then spending an evening learning about this thing and setting up a payment terminal or point of sale app could earn them a very large sum of money. So yeah, not today because price hasn't gone up that dramatically yet, but when it does, you might want to make sure that you have some luxury services on board.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought it up because there's a car dealer in our area who actually wants to accept Bitcoin Cash. We haven't fully onboarded them yet, but yeah, this could be one thing where the business might gain from the bull market, as you said, for those high price items.
Yeah, cars, boats,
We'll see.
houses, gold, metals, jewels, stuff like that. I know from communication with a payment provider here in Europe, by the way, that when merchants don't support these things, sometimes they can act as a middleman for specific individual purchases. So if you find customers but can't find outlets for them, you might actually be in a position to take a cut and gain value from intermediating sales as well. Just something to think about.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Jomar, for covering that angle of it. I'm sorry I jumped in on your thing. You were going to go on to a second point about what you've learned, I think.
Yeah. The other thing I learned is that I understand it's a pain point that we are at the early stage of like all these improvements being done on the Bitcoin Cash script VM, and there isn't a lot of tooling that we can use. It's a pain point. At the same time, it's an opportunity because for builders who are already here, like we started working on it early. I realized that much of the things where smart contracts are being used in EVMs, they're on the speculative side of DeFi. There is almost zero work on the commerce side of DeFi, like the DeFi that really has impact on real world commerce. And one of the things that is actually good about cash tokens is that you can, for example, lock or unlock BCH in a smart contract if there is the presence or absence of a particular token in any particular amount. So there's a lot of logic you can build now into smart contracts where you can tie it up to P2P cash. So P2P cash and DeFi will have big impact on real world commerce. And I think this is a really unexplored territory where us being this early, the builders who are now here can take advantage of. It's literally a blue ocean for developing solutions, building startups, I think there's a lot of potential there. I don't know if other people see that as well.
Absolutely, yeah. There's it's wide open. Commerce is totally underexplored since everything kind of went in a different direction around 2000 what 16 something sometime around then. Things kind of took a turn and the commerce aspect got a bit derailed. So, but we're back on it. Yeah, I think it's open, like you said.
Yeah, we're back. that's a
We're
that's
back.
a good
We're back.
development.
Finally.
Yeah, yeah, finally. And with I think Cash Tokens is like how do you call that? It's a cream of the crop, or no, it's like the finale. I would say like there are still a few things that we can improve on the VM, but I think we already have enough material now, enough primitives to build really advanced stuff that will have impact on commerce, and that's we're really excited, and we're doing a lot of things in the background. We're going to announce some things about the marketplace, how we're using the cash tokens there. But it's too early, but we are working on a lot of these exciting things with cash tokens in the background.
Oh, I look forward to not being able to keep up with all the things that are going on. That'll be fantastic. That's great. Was that the last point you wanted to share with builders? What about on the technical side? Did you have any particular things on the technical side to share? Landmines to look out for?
No, yeah, it's mostly on the interface between the technical and the entrepreneurial side. Yeah, I think other people will have better things to share on the technical side. I love hearing all those small, the experiences about the WebSocket dropping and all this
Yeah.
hash 256 versus SHA-256. Yeah, that's really funny.
Actually, let me ask you one question then. What have you found as a business owner with hiring? So we've had when we started out, when General Protocol started out, going out to recruit for someone to build on a UTXO chain, and even more specifically Bitcoin Cash, was very hard. There was very little experience in the market. What have you found on hiring or your training, or how have you approached team building for building products?
It's also the same in our experience. It's very hard to get somebody to work on UTXO chain in general. More so in our place in the Philippines. We live in the province, so it's even 10 times more difficult. What has worked for us is engaging young developers, almost fresh grads, and like training them, exposing them to UTXO, to recently cash tokens. So we work with I work with them to improve their skills and knowledge on this. It takes time this way, but I think that's the best that's the best I could do. Really grow with them as we are building and learning together. Yeah, it's just not possible to headhunt like really good developers on this. We can only count maybe in our one hand those who are really like very good at UTXO, more so of cash tokens. Yeah, it's more of engaging developers early, hiring them when they are when there's not much experience, and growing with them.
Okay.
It's difficult also because as was already mentioned earlier, there's not a lot of documentation on what little tooling we have. So there's a lot of work to be done on that part. But I think we have enough to get started, and it's really like yeah, growing together with the developers and developing the product, iterating, learning as much as we could along the way.
You know, I actually have one more question for you. I hope you don't mind. So,
Sure, no problem.
okay, thank you. With you, what you were saying about understand what your customers really need, what your users need, and make sure that you provide value to them. This is super standard for business, but something people who are somewhat ideologically motivated really need to be careful of. I think that's a very good point. But on that point, are there things that you don't compromise on? So, for example, building tools that are non-custodial versus taking custody to make things simple with the tools that are available. What are your thoughts on that? Are there some things that you don't compromise on because you think that's going to lead to worse problem, to some other direction that you don't want to go in?
Yeah, good thing you mentioned this because um, indeed that's how we approach this. There's one thing that we could not compromise. We prefer to build it this way. Like we want to make sure that the funds are safe. We follow the non-custodial patterns at all levels. So we make sure that we don't have custody of the funds. And this is also a business decision that is in line with regulatory, not compliance, but protection from regulatory bodies. Because when you design your systems, your apps to be non-custodial, you are most likely outside of any existing regulation already, like 99%. So you don't have to worry much about compliance because in the first place, even if you want to comply, the regulation doesn't apply to you because you're non-custodial. So this is something that we've learned along the way uh, in consultation with lawyers, with regulators here.
Right.
So yeah, we really make it a point that whatever we build on top of the wallet, we're going to make sure that the funds are non-custodial. It may involve some escrow like an arbitrator, but it's implemented as a contract, like a decentralized. So it's not possible for us to take the funds or the arbitrator to take the funds. Um, yeah, it's something that we don't compromise that part. It should be non-custodial. It's the only thing that makes sense because the moment you have custody, you already give the regulators a door, like to take control of your operations at some point in time. So yeah,
I see. And from our perspective, we choose it not only as a defensive thing, but we choose it as an offensive, as a strategic choice, not only a tactical choice, because we believe that it's like one of those things where there's muscles that you have to exercise to build them up, and until you build up those muscles, whether those are abstract, mental, or whatever, you don't really know what you can do. And so for general protocols, we stick to non-custody and some other kind of non-negotiable points so that we're going to really learn what's possible. And we think that, out in the medium term, that going in that direction is going to give us and Bitcoin Cash superpowers that are simply not possible, right? Like a different qualitative powers that are not possible with legacy finance and fiat. So we're kind of, that's a belief, right? It's a strategic decision to go that direction. And, we may be right, we may be wrong, but that's one thing for us is that it's actually strategic to do those.
yeah. It also, if I may add, it's also it makes sense business-wise because most of the traditional finance models to generate revenue, they involve custody. Like they have to have custody for them. At least the way they think is that they have to have custody in order to generate revenue. So then they can do some magic, with the money.
So
But
that they can speculate, right? I think that's
exactly. So if you go the non-custodial route, as we both are doing, you are somehow like forced to think of other business models
Yes, that's
for
right.
your
That's
business.
exactly
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yes. You have to
yeah.
really think about working as like for General Protocols, we're a service provider. We do no speculation. We provide services, and our revenue is based on services, not on speculation at all. You're right. It really forces
Yeah.
you to know what your business model is, and you don't get to cheat and play around with people's money in the background.
That's
Yeah.
the word. Yeah, cheat. That's what these other businesses are doing.
Yes, yeah, it's really ugly. And even if they're not, even if you do it all out in the open, it's still how can I say? It's kind of a shortcut where you're not really doing anything novel, and anybody can do
True.
what you're doing, and so you're not going to get anywhere novel really when you're addicted to easy money and rugs and so forth. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you answering all those. I'm gonna mention some things that I've heard. So I invited Bitcoin Cash Autis to come, but of course he doesn't speak in public. He's anonymous, but he sent me some messages. I asked him what he had learned. And Bitcoin Cash Autis is a super prolific builder and writer of chips, and has a huge impact on Bitcoin Cash in a very short amount of time. Well, now it's become longer, but still very short, and he's done so much. But I asked him what he has learned, and he said the difficulty of products, which I completely agree with. And what he said is, I'll just quote here. He said, "I toy around with contracts and things like that, and it's all just proof of concept this, proof of concept that. But the benefit to users is only captured if someone builds a product. And that difference between a proof of concept and a product is really significant." And I think that's the main point he wanted to make. And I totally agree with it. It's a lot of work. There's a huge gap between proof of concept and the product. But I will also add on that what we learned General Protocols with our work is there's a ton of value to be captured. And this is standard business for anyone, like anything. There's a ton of value to be captured in the steps from proof of concept towards, something that you might call a final product. So don't do either one. Don't get stuck in a proof of concept, because that, as much as you think it's amazing and everyone will pick it up and think, oh my God, this is the next amazing thing. That's not actually what happens, right? The ideas, there's thousands and thousands of ideas, and some of them are amazing, but still they won't get picked up and acted on. So don't get stuck with just ideas or just like a quick proof of concept. Work with somebody to take steps on that, to actually put it in people's hands. And that's so much more satisfying. It's a huge pain in the ass and it's a lot of work, but it's so satisfying to actually get people using it and happy and creating value for people. Then on the other end, don't get stuck on the other end, trying to perfect things before you put it out there, because you'll never get it done, and you'll get demotivated, because it's impossible, of course, to make something perfect. And you'll do like Jomar warned us against, which is you'll prematurely optimize. You'll prematurely choose what you think people want, and you'll spend a year working on it, and then it turns out nobody wanted that. So yeah, don't get stuck at the end of just making ideas. Don't get stuck at the end of you got to make it perfect before you release it. There's some happy medium to find for entrepreneurs and builders. So please do that. And if you're on the end that you tend towards proof of concepts, please find other people to work with who like to get in and get their hands dirty and make a product and put it out there. And if you're on the other end who likes to perfect things, just have somebody kick your ass and put something out the door, because you have to ship something for people to use in order for them to use it. Thank you for the shared idea, Bitcoin Cash Autis. I invited some other people up on stage, but it seems they dropped. Imam, there's a guy in the group, Imam. He's a software developer. I invited him up to see if he had something to add. So we'll see if he comes up on later. And anybody else, please raise your hand or whatever if you wanna jump on, if you have some experience to share. So, Jonathan, what did you think about the what I just said about the products, proof of concept versus product? Like, where did we do right and wrong? Right, we can look back at ourselves and say, oh, we really screwed up on this, or we did that well. What do you think about on that angle?
Right. So I actually have many different projects with many different experiences I could talk from. So I'll start and say that and I'll go back all the way down to cash accounts. So I made a project to help people get an alias for their payment information so that payment information could be shared verbally and in a more humane manner. And I did this because I felt that the technical identifiers used to share payment information are all technical to the point where no human can actually validate or verify in a sensible way. And I thought that if I just make it good enough and release it, it would kind of sort itself out. But having hindsight now, I can both share some numbers, and I can also say that even if you don't get like immediate success on your first step or immediate letdown on your first step, don't stop. Right? If you know internally that what you're doing is valuable, at least to yourself, then consider different angles and see if you can move on in some other way. So as for numbers, when we first released the cash account, we had people essentially queuing up and trying to get accounts as fast as they possibly could, and we had a big influx of users early on. But as it turns out, the utility provided by cash account were limited because wallets do not ubiquitously support it. So only a few wallets ended up supporting the protocol. And we then had a lull, right? A long time where usage wasn't much, like the bus had worn off, and we were kind of looking at it like, yeah, this has failed. And so I moved on to other things for a while, but I've been checking in on it year after year since, and it has actually kept growing, right? So the numbers did not fully stagnate. They just found a convenient bottom and then slowly moved up from there. And it turns out that apparently it is valuable to someone somewhere. I don't actually even know where or who these people are who are using it, apart from my own uses. But I think that even if I don't had a clear result at the beginning, solving the problem of not identity, but humanizing the technical identifiers in the system so that it becomes more easier for regular persons to use is an important and valuable thing. If I had more time and weren't occupied with other things, this is one of the projects I would go back to and see if I could find some other angles, some new insight I could learn, and then pick it up again and try to run with it.
I have that feeling about Cash Canary. I really want to go back and run with that one.
Yeah. As for
somebody make me rich so we can do all these things.
Yeah. As for general protocols and the NIH BCH Bull situation, it's different. We had the initial bus, of course, but we have been growing over a much longer time, and having grit and staying with the project and working to improve it gradually or incrementally, step by step. If we had just measured the numbers at like 3 months after our first release and wouldn't have had continued working, BCH Bull would not exist. We would have tried with our partnership strategy first.
Yeah.
DToken would have been running for a while. The usage would be so low that it wouldn't motivate even marketing it anymore. and we would have just given up. But we chose to believe that the problem was valuable to work on. We found different ways to do things, and we listened to the experiences that our users and customers had. And then we came back with the BCH Bull and have since been improving it incrementally. It's been a very interesting experience.
Don't give up. Yeah, don't be delusional. Of course, don't be delusional about things. You got to pay attention and see if you're actually providing value to anybody. But yeah, don't give up. Shit's hard. You're gonna have really bad days where you just are banging your head against the wall and nothing seems to work and it seems like nothing's going ahead. But I don't know. I've really appreciated on that part that the ecosystem comes back to us and tells us what they appreciate and what's working for them, and just that they do appreciate what we're working on. That actually makes a big difference. So yeah, maybe tell people if they're working on something and you appreciate it, let them know. And if you're a business or an entrepreneur, maybe consider sponsoring those people. Like that's what GP does. It's not large amounts, but it's small amounts that we sponsor people for. And we also try to publicize people and let the world know who's doing great things. At least for me, those things are pretty motivating and nice to get.
I can't stress that enough. A lot of the open source developers are young, and the most valuable thing they can get at their point in life is validation and public endorsement. So if you are a company and you are using something that someone else is making, particularly if they're making it for free, and you really like what they are doing, reach out and tell them. If you have money to spare, even if it's really small, like symbolic amount, like $10 or whatever, it can still make someone's day. And if they get to put on their CV that this big company is using my tools that I made, that's a big foot in the door for them to kind of step off from and move further in life afterwards. Not to mention that if you're using the work they already do, chances are you might even at some point in the future want to recruit them to work for you. So yeah, build relations. Let people know. If you can, spare some money. It's highly motivational for the people involved.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. I'm glad I'm not the only one who likes to get a pat on the back every once in a while instead of just banging my head on the wall by myself. So there's somebody, I invited some people to join, but it seems like the timing isn't going to work out for a few other builders. But we have a lot of other builders in Bitcoin Cash ecosystem, and I'm sure they all have experience. So maybe we'll get a chance to hear from them later on. There is one person in the audience, though. I'm going to call out Almas Das. Sorry if I'm saying the name the wrong way, but the very cute fruit with the glasses, with the green laser protection glasses in the audience. And I'm going to call him out because he's making really great memes for all kinds of things, pro something or pointing out silliness in other things, a lot of good meme work. And not only he or she, but a lot of other people as well. The meme game has been stepping up a lot. And that kind of marketing aspect of Bitcoin Cash is something that was underappreciated, underdeveloped. And it's something that it's the nature of a decentralized ecosystem. We literally don't have a boss. There is no boss in here in the room to point out, okay, we need to invest resources here. We need to invest resources here. It's really up to some people to become a leader and make the thing happen. And Almas Das is one of those who has been, along with Cheap Lightning and Corbin Dallas Multipass and several other people who they're just good at coming up with memes. And they've really taken off with this social media marketing aspect of things. And of course, there's much more we can do, but I really appreciate all of you out there taking your initial thoughts and actually taking action on it and trying to get people together and make something happen. And with the memes specifically, that's what I've seen, is that there's somebody who took the effort to make a place for people to talk and work together on a specific thing. You might even call it like a little social media marketing department, kind of decentralized marketing department. They made a place, they took the action, they got people together. And then at the beginning, it was very quiet and not much happened. But with the focus and direction, it has built up and just really started to take off. And the quality is increasing, the volume is increasing, the impact is increasing. So yeah, take small steps on something that you think is important and see how it works out. So thank you to you guys making the memes out there. I love them, and I use them all the time to help make points and communicate important information in a fast way. Thank you guys. Uname, did you want to call anything out or any other lessons you think we should share from a general protocols perspective that other people might be able to learn from?
You mean from the perspective of builders of products?
Yeah, entrepreneurs, builders, marketing, anybody who wants to make something happen. They think this is important, but they're not sure exactly what to do. What have you learned with our work at General Protocols that you think would be useful?
Well, I mean, I'm just gonna say a very generalized thing that this point was probably made before, but we can totally make this point again because it's kind of important, which is to think about scaling in terms of your application, and by scaling, I don't just mean that would this scale? What if it gets big? Would it be viable? No. Think the reverse. What if it's small? Would your application work when it's small? And that's really important because I think a lot of people, when they're building, I think this is especially evident in the early years of Bitcoin Cash, which some of us have witnessed. A lot of people would just say that, Bitcoin Cash is the big blockchain, and that is why I'm gonna build an app that, if you do the math, it will totally not work unless either the business model or the network or whatever, like this thing would not really work unless there's a million people using it. And then predictably it fizzles out. And then people ask, what happened to it? It fizzled out. And that model sometimes work, but they generally only work at a startup if you got like some $100 million to get it to where you want by growth hacking. If you don't have that luxury at design phase, it's really important to think about scale. It's a very generalized thing from early in Bitcoin Cash history, but I feel that it's something worth bringing up again.
Yeah, our ambitions are very large, but we got to start where we are, and especially, I think, if I rephrase simply, you're building a product that requires a very large network effect is that there's a huge gap from here to there, and it's probably going to be impossible unless you understand how you're going to get from here to there. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, this is also something that we have gradually learned in our during our time in General Protocols, right? Like in the beginning, we wrote the AnyHedge white paper, and then we had some things in mind, like we're gonna just do the toolbox, and then other people will host it, and other people would find their customers. Well, that doesn't work. There's a chicken and egg problem, and we're gonna do it ourselves, and then and then once we're gonna do it ourselves, gradually we realize, okay, this thing will not work unless there's always a counterparty there. Well, who's gonna be the counterparty? Better actually make sure there is a counterparty, and ta-da, the current BCH Bull is born. Where some aspects are not as distributed as we like it to be, but hey, it can start somewhere, and that's important, right?
Yeah, start somewhere. Yeah, like we were saying, don't get stuck at step 0, and don't get stuck at the last step before you get there. Okay, I wanted to share one little piece of advice for any builders out there, and this is for anyone, but especially I know about software development. So if you're looking to get a job or to work on apps, or you want to build something but you're unable to do it yourself, it's a smart thing to do, to try to work with other people. And the easiest step to do that is find out the tool chain of somebody you want to work for, or who's doing something similar to what you want to do, and start helping them out by just fixing or working on the tool chain, the open source software that they use. Make improvements, fix issues. Guaranteed, every project, dependency that people have has a very long list of unresolved issues. Every project has that. So go in there and see if you can find a way to help out, or help users, do some kind of technical support or whatever. And I'm not saying they go work for free. This is an investment, right? If you're wanting to get a job or wanting to learn or whatever, that's an investment that you're making. And the easy way to do that, where you're going to get support and you're not going to be working by yourself, is to work on things that other people are already using and help them out, because then they're going to want to help you too. And they're going to want to work with you and support you as well. So you're going to get something out of this in addition to whatever you put into it. And you won't be in isolation. So yeah, that's my simple advice for people looking to build or get started on things. So I think we'll cut off soon here. I had a request from Vikram. So the guy who started InstaCrypto in India and works with Zapit Wallet. So he suggested that we explain a little bit about the variable block size algorithm that's coming up, just as a closer for the space. That seems like a pretty nice thing. You want to give a really quick rundown of what this algorithm does and why we're doing it in place of Bitcoin Cash Artist?
You mean the wait? Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Could you just give us a quick rundown of the ABLA, the block size algorithm update that's coming? Like, what is it? What does it do at a very high level, and why is it important?
Let me try to get a one-liner out there.
No way.
In terms of a one-liner, the bigger the actual blocks mined, the higher the limit will be lifted in a slow and controllable way. That's it.
Nice. Okay, that's how it works. Yep. So the thing that's coming is that after the upgrade in May, it's more or less settled now that it's going in May of 2024, is that every block, the consensus algorithm, the consensus mechanism that BCH works on, will decide what's the maximum block size that the chain will allow to be mined. And the point of that is to grow predictably, right?
Yeah.
The predictability is the key point.
Yeah, and it will be slow, controllable, predictable, and it will be a response to actual usage. So
yes, yeah, and some people have rightly pointed out, you shouldn't respond to usage, you should respond to capacity. But capacity is a very abstract, subjective thing that's very dangerous to build on. But the algorithm that we have has that built into it by having a a reasonable upper bound and reasonable. Well, it doesn't have a lower bound, but it has a reasonable upper bound on what size blocks will be allowed to be mined. Yes, and
yeah, and a very important point of this algorithm is that much to the complaint of some people, a very central point of the algorithm is that no matter what, it's going to be slow, and it's going to be slow enough for anything that happens to be reacted upon. So that's part of the campaign that we've been having for a while, which is to inspire confidence in builders and users, etc.
Yes, inspiring confidence and providing stability. So, and one more angle about this idea is because there's some people who think you shouldn't put rules on anything. You should just allow the market to decide everything, and that any philosophy taken to an extreme becomes damaging at some point. And Bitcoin Cash, in my opinion, is all about being practical, about being a practical money network for the world. That doesn't mean that there's some central decision maker, because this wasn't made by a central decision maker. This was a very broadly established consensus that allowing, for example, allowing unlimited block size is incredibly dangerous from an engineering perspective. That's one of the things about Bitcoin Cash, is that it's practical, and we look at all angles: the economic, technical, engineering, marketing. All those angles need to be considered. And while you might think that, an unlimited block size, everything will work itself out, it's like this is also a practical, real engineering system. It's not just an abstract thing that reacts to market forces. It's a real thing. And if you break it, you break the reliability, you break your reputation, you break people's expectations, you lose reputation. And that's something that this broad consensus was developed to say, hey, look, we want to grow. We absolutely want to grow. And we're establishing that even in the consensus, that this chain is going to scale like really far. And it's going to happen in a reasonable way that allows things to grow without breaking.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to note. I mean, not to shit on anybody, but it's a really useful lesson. We don't need to talk in abstract. We don't need to do any philosophical debates. We have actually seen how the whole just let everything loose and go to the 11 all extreme all out philosophy. We have actually seen that work out. We have actually seen
Yes.
how that works elsewhere. I think we've had enough data right now to say that okay, we have some idea about how it will play out, and it didn't play out very well, and there's no reason to believe that it will play out in the future. So yeah, we actually have data, and I think that's really valuable. Thanks to thank you to the guys somewhere else who invested a lot of their blood, sweat, tears, and money into playing it out for us, so we know what not to do. Yeah.
So let me pull this back to a more practical perspective in the context of building an app on BCH today. So the block size algorithm, it can grow over time if there's demand, but it has an upper cap. The upper cap is set to about 2x over a year, but it can go a little bit over that in some circumstances. So if you are going to build an app on BCH today, chances are that you will either build some kind of indexing service that tracks the things you care about, or you will parse all the on-chain transactions. Regardless of what you're doing, this algorithm should give you a good frame of reference so that you know how much data you will actually need to deal with, right? Over the coming year, you know that there won't be blocks much bigger than, say, 60, 70 megabytes or whatever, at absolute worst. And so you don't need to build an architecture that scales more than that. And you don't need to put in resources to scale out your infrastructure to handle like arbitrary 10 gigabyte blocks that might come along, because those won't come along because consensus forbids it.
Yes, and importantly, you don't need to say, "Oh, I don't want to build here because it might go to very outrageous places, and I don't want to deal with that." You don't need to make that decision.
Yes, you also have the benefit of knowing that if what you are building is successful, like if your internal projection says we are going to grow at a rapid pace, you know with certainty that if you hit full blocks from your application alone, then blocks will get bigger, so you will get more space. It's not, okay, my app might hit the block size, and I might need a lot more usage, but then I have to find some political people to talk to, and we're going to have to coordinate some way to raise in the space, and I might not get that block size increase. And you have an algorithm here that will tell you that it will grow if you need it to. If you, for some reason, are working on an app today and you want a faster growth rate than what this algorithm allows, come talk to people. It's not impossible to change the parameterization of the algorithm if there is like demonstrable, provable demand. But yeah, from my perspective, I think it's growing fast enough to be meaningfully signaling that we want to grow. And it's not growing so fast that you have to commit unlimited resources in order to just sustain whatever app you're doing. So it's a good practical trade-off between the two.
Well said. All right. Let's wrap up here. Thank you, everyone, for your time. And actually, for all of our spaces, we'd be very happy for any builders, entrepreneurs to come up and share your experiences, to let other people know how to do things, because this is a decentralized ecosystem. You're the boss. There's no boss. So you are. Make it happen, and come share with everybody how you make things happen. Thanks, everyone, for your time, and we will catch you in another week.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.